your life is already here. The third of these dozen is to be an appreciator in your life. Be an appreciator. Look for that which is valuable rather than worthless. Look, you go out and you buy a house. And 10 years later, we say it appreciates in value. What does that mean? What does it mean that a house appreciates? It is more what? Valuable. It's more same thing with you. If you're an appreciator, you have more value. Now you buy a car, you drive it off of the lot, and they say, well, it just depreciated by 20%. What does that mean? It is not as valuable as it was before. When you depreciate, you take your value away. When you appreciate, you make yourself valuable. What could be more valuable than being connected to Source? 4. Stay in rapport with Source energy. Stay in rapport. Your job here is to be in a state of harmony with this. Constantly reminding yourself, is this how my Source thinks? 5. Resistance. Understand this about resistance. Every thought that you have that is other than that which you emanated from is resistance. Every unkind thought, every uncreative thought, every thought of judgment, every thought of fear, every thought of depression, every thought of it can't happen, all resistance. So if you say, well, easy for him, he can talk about this, but I can't, that's resistance. You're right. Absolutely. Even if you think all of this is a bunch of nonsense, you're absolutely right. You're absolutely, because for you, that's what you believe. And if you believe that, the universal Source will help you to fulfill that belief. 6th is what I talked about many times in the program. Contemplate yourself as surrounded by the conditions which you want to produce. Contemplate yourself that. Because the way you are one with Source. You are always one with Source. You are one with all of its principles, all of those phases. You are one with it. It can't be anything other than it is. Neither can you. 7, understand the art of allowing. Allowing means taking the path of least resistance. Every time you have a thought that has resistance in it, what you have done is you have created an absence of allowing. You have to almost think like, here I am here, and here's Source. How much energy can I pull from it? How much energy can I pull from it? Are you pulling energy from Source, or are you away from it? Allowing. Allow yourself. 8, practice radical humility. You are not this body that you are in. You are not this mind that you are in. You are not any of the possessions that you have. You are a divine Source. 9, be in a constant state of gratitude. Be grateful for everything that shows up. Everything. Stay in a state of being generous and grateful in your life. Because what could be more generous than that which has allowed you to come from the infinite Source to this material world and back? 10, keep in mind that you can never resolve a problem by condemning it. Any problem that you have, when you use shame, you are using the lowest energy that's out there in the universe. You cannot shame your way into higher consciousness, into Source energy. 11, play the match game. Play the match game. Always ask yourself, am I matched up with the field of intention? And finally, meditate. Make it a practice in your life. Meditation is essential because it is your way of staying connected to Source. What is the only thing in the universe that can't be divided? You cannot divide God. Everything else has an up, down, north, south, east, west, male, female, right, wrong, black, white, alive, dead. Everything comes in dichotomies except for silence. Silence, you cut it in half, what do you get? More silence. Cut it in half again, more silence. Cut Source in half, just more Source. You can't divide it. Meditation. Stay in the gap. I'd like to close out this program on the power of intention with a story that was sent to me by my dear friend, Ellen. It's called Attitude. A 92-year-old, petite, well-poised, and proud lady who's fully dressed each morning by 8 o'clock, 92 years old, with her hair fashionably coiffed and makeup perfectly applied, even though she's legally blind and moved to a nursing home today. Her husband of 70 years recently passed away, making the move necessary. After many hours of waiting patiently in the lobby of this nursing home, she smiled sweetly when she told her room was now ready. As she maneuvered her walker to the elevator, I provided a visual description of her tiny room, including the eyelet sheets that had been hung on the window. "I love it," she stated, with the enthusiasm of an 8-year-old, having just been presented with a new puppy. "But Mrs. Jones, you haven't even seen the room yet. Just wait." "That doesn't have anything to do with it," she said. "Happiness is something you decide on ahead of time. Whether I like my room or not doesn't depend on how the furniture is arranged. It's how I arrange my mind." When you change the way you look at things, even if you're legally blind, the things you look at change. God bless you, and thank you.
Next, a special bonus segment. For the first time in 20 years, Dr. Dyer speaks about the profound and very personal event that transformed his own life.
One of the most important ideas that I've ever encountered came from something I read in Castaneda's very last book called The Active Side of Infinity. In The Power of Intention, I wrote an entire chapter on you and your role with infinity. What he said in here that made such a profound impact on me was that he said the problem with humanity, with what people in the Western world who are not living of the source, is that we are all in bodies that are going to die, but we act as if they're not. And I thought about that. I've contemplated that whole idea a long time. And he said, when you act as if you're in a body that is not going to die, you live on what he called the inactive side of infinity. And our objective here in connecting to intention is to move ourselves to the active side of infinity. The active side of infinity is the place where we recognize our infinite nature. And so we understand what Jesus meant when he spoke of you are in this world, but you're not of this world. And almost all of us believe that we are in this world and that we are of this world as well. And we can't get past that idea. So that to move and understand our infinite nature is one of the more complicated and difficult things to do, but once you get it, you get it. I remember when I was living out in Mount Clemens, Michigan, at the home of a beautiful lady who took in children who were in the same kinds of conditions that I was in and that my mom was in. I was born in 1940. My mother had 3 boys under the age of 4. I was the youngest. And my father, when I was about 1.5 or 2, just left. And my mother divorced him, but he never, he had 3 boys, and he never made a phone call, ever, in his entire life. Never made any attempt to contact or pay any support. And I used to always wonder about how could someone, and my mother was one of these really beautiful, divine souls. I mean, everybody, when I was she got us back together when I was 9 years old in 1949. And